now with the cement tunnels, I've shown you what General Kammler could actually do when he had a labor force and a little bit of time. With that in mind, we need to journey back to the premier construction project of the Third Reich, Project Riese. It all started in 1943 when Albert Speer began talking of the project. The Industriegemeinschaft Silesia was created to construct construction work. The roads, the bridges, railways were constructed between many of the sites. Local labor camps, AL, Arbeitslager, was constructed near each of the work sites, and labor was generally provided from Großrosen. However, as we shall soon learn, more labor was directed here from outside the Großrosen system, enlarging the labor force to numbers that far exceeds the original 30,788 I initially believed. Also included were miners from around Germany and Italy, those called in for underground construction. Thousands of skilled laborers from all over the Reich worked here, making this the largest work project in the Third Reich. Proof of this is borne out in documents showing the allocations of cement used that here far exceeded all other projects at the time. Now, to speed up progress, Hitler assigned the construction entirely to the Todt organization in early 1944. Here were 8 separate tunnel systems, a headquarters building, and under the castle, countless Arbeitslagers for the workers that we know of. Some of those sites have also disappeared. And the most completed tunnel system was that under the Castle Furstenstein. So now I will show you the most completed tunnel systems look like. And after that, we will visit the least completed Riese tunnel systems. And there's a very specific reason for this. You see, there's a problem with the whole official story behind Project Riese. Being a Führer headquarters or not, there's something else going on here. Last week I showed you what General Kammler could do with half the labor of the Riese project and twice the time. And I promise you, a man like General Kammler did not have time to build these pithy little tunnels or a Führer headquarters or small little underground local factories that might fit in what we see today. And don't forget that the site of the Henge is not officially known as a Riese site. However, there is no documents that have been found that names even the sites we know of today. The names they are given today were given post-war, so we knew what to call them, well, something. So why is it we think that the only sites there were are the sites we can officially see today? And given the numerous military contractors and factories that was located in this general area and guarded by the SS, it's very hard to believe there was no connection between these sites and facilities. The designated Riese project headquarters was the Jedlinka Palace, from which the Todt ran the construction project. The engineers working for the Todt organization, now under leadership directly by Albert Speer, they knew exactly what was needed in order to build a tunnel or underground structure. They knew exactly how many laborers they would need to build into whatever material. They were by now experts in setting up quick turnaround constructions, just like Fiebinger, Kammler's Austrian engineer, who built and designed and constructed so many of his secret underground complexes. There was no accident in how the Germans built at the time. They knew exactly what they were doing and how to accomplish their goal. And it is from their records we know and understand how important Project Riese was. This time out in Poland, I'm teaming up with Alex, a Polish wounded combat veteran. Actually, he's a doctor, and he has boundless energy, and fortunately for me, he speaks Polish a whole lot better than I do. So together, we are going to excavate some of these locations, and we're going to start here at the castle. As you can see, most of the castle tunnels are not directly located under the castle, but to one side under the courtyard leading away from it. And this is the way it was left after the war. There's nothing changing. Nothing. So is this a collapse or?
It's a collapse.
So this is where the cement work is actually starting, some 100 meters from the entrance. Several years after the war, some of the prisoners who had been forced to work here returned. They now claimed that the tunnels had been altered, they had been changed, that there were large tunnel entrances that had been covered up and were now missing. This started an investigation into what actually might be behind some of these very thick walls and what the purpose of this place was. This is wide enough for 2 tracks. But this is the very large part of the tunnel. Which brings us to the interesting question. What's down here? See, this looks like an unfinished and unworked part because it's not collapsed. This is solid rock. This is not where you would expect to hide anything. There's wood built into the wall there. Grooves for. So why is there a hole here? So there's a hole here. You have the wood up here to attach things to. Hooks for pipes and accessories, large tunnel. So that goes all the way up to that little steel plate. So, and there's wood on that wall. What's in there?
Object is divided currently into 2 parts. This part, the lighter colored, is for tourists, but this is with no access. This is part for lab.
For many years now, the Polish government seismic lab have been housed in the tunnels here under the castle, sealing off 1/2 of the complex that is roughly in design, layout and cement usage, as what we will see.
Po pobycie jednego z byłych więźniów Karl-Gross-Rosen, Weissa, kiedy był tutaj na dole w 1986 roku, wskazał, że w tym miejscu powinna być komora, czyli mamy sztolnię główną, sztolnia, komora po lewej, na wprost dalej komora i że po prawej stronie ma być komora. To był przekaz. Jeden z poszukiwaczy, znawców tego tematu, Tadeusz Słowikowski, zainicjował później badania. Po otrzymaniu zgody geofizyki udało mu się doprowadzić tutaj do wykonania paru odwiertów. To są ślady po tych odwiertach, tylko to były odwierty pełnym wiertłem wykonywane wtedy. Mniej więcej na głębokość 1–1,5 metra. Przeszli ścianę betonową, grubą, około metrową, no i dalej skała. No i tak to się skończyło. Co prawda ten projekt nazwano poszukiwaniem komory Weissa, ponieważ były to prowadzone badania w ciągu 1 dnia i jednak ci, którzy inicjowali te badania, nie byli zadowoleni, że to nie jest wszystko, że być może coś się znajduje dalej, no ale niestety mieli zgodę tylko na 1 dzień prowadzenia badań. Otwory wykonano, później zostały zamaskowane zaprawą betonową, no i temat umarł. Temat wrócił w roku 2012, kiedy druga grupa badawcza Dolnośląskiego Towarzystwa zainicjowała badania, ale już rdzeniowe, po to, żeby wykonać odwiert. Mamy tutaj numer 2, 3 i 4, żeby jeszcze raz zobaczyć faktycznie, jaka jest grubość struktury skalnej, bo możemy włożyć kamerę i możemy to prześwietlić i jak układa się struktura betonu, co jest za betonem, jak ewentualnie wygląda skała. Najgrubsze ściany betonowe miały 2,40 m, czyli dużo. I niestety dalej szła skała. Jak wygląda rdzeń, tam dalej pokażemy. Czyli ten temat powtórzony w roku 2000 niestety umarł, ale są osoby, które dalej twierdzą, że ta komora, skoro więzień pokazuje, że tu stojąc było coś po prawej stronie, że ona jednak w sumie powinna być. No ale jak to można traktować, tego na dzień dzisiejszy nie odpowiemy. I tak naprawdę zmienia się kształt tego przekroju sztolni. Tu mamy, jak widzimy, ściany pionowe, mniej więcej o wysokości 2,20 m, ściana idzie idealnie pionowo. Za chwilę zmienia się na przekrój na eliptyczny i dochodzą wystające pręty zbrojeniowe. Teraz wiemy, co to jest. Miała być nadbudowa stropu pośredniego. To są rdzenie po wykonaniu takiego otworu, ponieważ koronka pozwoli wyciągnąć przekrój. Co prawda one nie są jednolite, one niestety pękają, ale to mamy tak, przekrój ściany betonowej. Widzimy dokładnie kruszywo, widzimy uzupełnienie masą betonową. Kruszywo jest, jak widać, jest różne, tak to wygląda w przełomie, a za ścianą tą betonową, czyli po wyciągnięciu tego typu rdzeni, wychodziła skała. To jest przekrój skały. Skały, które tutaj występują, czyli mamy jej przekrój jakby przełomu i taki doskonale prostopadły. I to po wykonaniu tych głębokich otworów, tak w tym przypadku na 2,40 m zaczęło się pokazywać coś takiego. Żeby mieć pewność, otwory były wykonywane jeszcze około metra do 1,30 m. Czy skała jest naprawdę jednolita? No, potwierdza to, że dalej mamy skałę, bo nawet gdyby tu była skała dołożona, wiertnica nie wyciągałaby takich pełnych kawałków. Czyli no, badania zakończyły się, powiedzmy sobie, niepowodzeniem, no, ale ta niepewność i sugestie, że jednak może to istnieć dalej, pozostała tak naprawdę do dzisiaj.
Alright, I will start by pointing out the obvious. They only had one day to investigate something that important, and one place in the same wall, the cement thickness was 1.5 meters, and another place just a few meters away, it was 2 meters and 40, which is incidentally far thicker than any other wall in any other tunnels I've seen. And speaking of tunnels, here you can see different designs and different shapes in the very same structure, something that's also unusual that I have never seen in underground German tunnels before. You would usually have large working tunnels with smaller intersecting tunnels for utility. Here's the oval X shape that we're used to even from the east wall tunnels, and then the much wider tunnel system down here on the right. But at the end of it, there's only rock tunnels. At the end of all of these, there are only smaller accessible in bare rock tunnels. So what would they expect to get in here?
Now you have to remember, there would be a level above this. You see with the rebar sticking out. This is where there would be a top level for utility. And then you have the little rooms. Oh gee, the door's open. They should never have left that open. Okay, now you have an echo going on here.
From what I am being told, this is part of the old seismic lab, dating back from before the 70s. However, this ran up until 1999, whereafter they moved all the seismic equipment into the much larger tunnels and sealed off that part of the complex. However, what's interesting is what were these rooms originally made for? Generators, ventilation. Certainly they couldn't have been seismic.
Nad wejściami do dwóch komór, po jednej i po drugiej stronie, widzimy u góry wychodzące rury, które przechodzą na komorę. Jest ich 7. Jedną mamy stalową, prawdopodobnie dlatego, że jak tam miałby zostać instalowany agregat prądotwórczy, żeby można było wprowadzić spaliny, wiadomo, spaliny są agresywne, pozostałe rury do kierowania przepływem powietrza, czyli zasysane czyste powietrze przechodzi przez urządzenie filtrowentylacyjne, które miały być w każdej 4 komór i są rozprowadzane za pomocą rur na wszystkie tak naprawdę pomieszczenia. Jak popatrzymy, rury po lewej, rury po prawej mają idealne spotkanie, czyli jest możliwość połączenia tego trójnikami po środku i do środka obiektu przed nami i za nami można byłoby kierować i kontrolować przepływ powietrza. Jak wejdziemy do środka, widać, jak rury są tutaj również przygotowane do podłączenia. Widzimy tą jedną stalową, czyli tu gdzieś mógł się znaleźć agregat prądotwórczy i spaliny z silników diesla i przepływ powietrza. Te rury idące pod kątem pokazują jedną rzecz. Tu mamy stare rysunki. Dokładnie wskazanie miejsca, gdzie może znaleźć urządzenie. OKF, czyli wentylacja. Średnica rury 100 mm, czyli miało stanąć dokładnie tu po to, żeby podłączyć do urządzenia.
What am I looking at?
It is exactly decided and described level of this point above sea level in meters.
Above sea level?
Yes.
Why?
For construction reason. Reason concerning the construction of this object.
Why is that such an important thing? What was he saying about these 4? These are all ventilation?
One from iron, and rest is from different materials. The rest were used for air intake and exhaust. But the iron, the one made of iron, was made for smoke from aggregate.
Oh, ventilation from machinery. There's a lot of ventilation pipes going into this room, into these rooms.
Ventilation, filter ventilation, in the case of chemical attack.
So these 4 rooms were basically to house generators, which would make them the best protected generators I've ever seen of any underground or above ground fort. And what were they to power? The tunnels are large but not big enough for industry.
So why is there an unfinished part? Do we know? Any ideas?
Tu miano wykonać wcięcie w stronę dziedzińca, który jest 50 metrów nad nami, wykonać szyb wentylacyjny po to, żeby było to miejsce czerpni powietrza, czyli u góry jest jeszcze jakiś budynek, przez który przechodzi powietrze, schodzi tutaj na dół i zarazem tędy wychodzi zużyte powietrze plus spaliny, o których mówiliśmy tutaj z agregatów prądotwórczych.
So once again, let me see if I get this straight. These are the best protected generators way underground, under rock, encased in cement. So you build an enormous ventilation shaft straight above, leaving them vulnerable. Something does not compute in my tiny brain.
It's still here.
This installation consists of 4 independent segments, 4 independent aggregates and 4 independent systems of ventilation working together in one place as a backup.
Okay, that's a little bit more backup than I've seen before.
If I understand this correctly, these are 4 backup generators for ventilation.
Any idea the purpose of this?
Śluza hermetyczna, tu najprawdopodobniej potężne wrota, widać, to są najprawdopodobniej miejsca, gdzie miały być potężne łożyska pod zamontowanie drzwi, które zamykałyby przejście tutaj, po to, żeby schron był jakby całkowicie oddzielony od tutaj możliwości wejścia. I przed nami 2 korytarze idące dalej w kierunku zamku. Jesteśmy w tej chwili centralnie pod dziedzińcem zamkowym i w połowie długości i w połowie szerokości. Ten korytarz po lewej prowadziłby do szybu windowego, ten po prawej pod klatkę schodową. I na końcu 2 tuneli mamy wyjścia na zewnątrz, na zbocze góry, na północ i na południe.
Massive door.
But where was the...
To secure ventilation area from another part of complex.
So that was expected to be the ventilation area.
Yes.
And then the main...
They expected that this is a place, and second one, to install very big doors, panzer doors.
Alright, I have never seen a ventilator or generator room without small platforms for the machinery to stand on. And on this side of what is expected to be large armored doors, there's only smaller tunnels and nowhere for ventilated air or electricity to travel through. No channel ducts, no wall hangers for any kind of wires, no utility tunnels even, traveling in this direction on this side of the large hallways. Yet here we are under the actual castle and at pretty much street level.
Well, that's new.
This is a corridor to Outhouse, located on another part of Castle Furstenstein.
Really? So is this the unfinished entrance? Or is this the...
There are 2. One is finished, the second one is not finished.
Oh yes, I see daylight.
Oh yes, this one is finished.
So I can't help but to see that this is a little unstraight.
Now this is an interesting reminder that all of these tunnels, this entire tunnel system, is pretty much at level with one of the plateaus of the castle, which made construction easier as you could run a mini rail around this plateau into the forests and out of the front gate all to the labor camp and straight into the tunnels with equipment and gear and people. However, that also means that the business end of these tunnels were in the opposite end. Here is only an elevator shaft and an out.
I was looking for rails. Now they're definitely original. And that wheel is definitely original. Okay, so there's definitely more to this than you just see on your first walkthrough. And if I by now have not learned one thing, I would imagine this is a dead end. Although I could see slight indents in the ground for the mini rail that would have been laid here for the construction. And here, there's a bat. There's a bat coming your way. Like I said, at the end of a tunnel. These look like drill cores.
But it's becoming painfully obvious that for this to have been a headquarters for Hitler, none of this makes any sense.
Why are there drill cores laying here? Why are there 4 separate independent air conditioning systems? Steel doors? Never seen steel doors being attached that way. This is somewhat more confusing than I thought it was going to be, but at least there's poured some cement in here. But again, same thing here as everywhere else in the Riese projects. More cement have been registered as having been poured than there's found. More rails. This comes out to an opposing side of the castle where we were.
There are slight bends in these small utility tunnels. A rail could possibly navigate it, but there's no access from here to the castle upstairs. And this was all very utilitarian, including possibly the part we haven't been able to see. So Hitler would certainly not have been down here. There's no accommodations or anything like that. That leaves him to have a room upstairs in the castle that would be highly vulnerable to bombing. All of that completely negates this as a headquarters location for Hitler. I've been to Obersalzberg. I've seen the engine room in the tunnels under Obersalzberg. I've seen the engine bunker at his headquarters out of Wolfsleer. There is no resemblance, and most of the tunnels under Obersalzberg could probably fit inside these tunnels here. And all the ventilation and generator power, what were they for?
It's interesting. I would imagine this is the shaft.
This is a shaft in front of castle, the big one.
This is up to the big one. So this was completed. This was the access tunnel. I mean, the main, during the construction. Well, one of the main
shaft made for big elevator, able to transport cars.
Which would then lead me to question, why would you need an elevator to transport cars down here when you could just drive around the castle by enlarging the utility tunnels here on the side? Not to mention the tunnels connecting the various tunnels are not big enough to take cars.
Tylko że u góry dziura była potężna, bo tam była ziemia. Dziedziniec powstał w XVII wieku. Nie robili szalunków. Zrobili lej taki z naturalnym kątem rozpływania się ziemi. I gdzie doszli do skały, czyli z tego poziom 15 dopiero zaczęli drążyć szczyt na dół koło elipsa, bo to nie okrągło, elipsa o tym dłuższym boku średnicy 8 metrów. Czyli po tej stronie później zamontowana winda. Wrócimy do tego filmu jeszcze raz. Winda, a po drugiej stronie schody, no bo musisz mieć dostęp do windy co piętro.
The only reason this facility exists and has been built this way is for a very specific technical application. It is certainly not a headquarters for Hitler. He would need 4 generators or ventilators that would, ventilate a room up in the castle where he could merely open a window when nothing is gas tight anyway. And no pipes leads up there. Huge utilitarian elevators, small utility tunnels, and a few very large tunnels, not big enough for industry, but just large enough for their specific purpose.
Cave in, or what happened here? So this is the other side of the elevator shaft. So the elevator shaft is in between these 2 hallways on the other side. So what happened to it? Did it cave in, or did they destroy it, or what happened?
To miejsce, które teraz widzimy, obecnie zasypane, dawniej potężny szyb do góry o przekroju elipsy, o tej dłuższej średnicy 8 metrów. Wychodził na dziedzińcu zamkowym. Po tamtej stronie tamtego korytarza miał być szyb windowy i miała jeździć winda. Po tej stronie najprawdopodobniej miały być zabudowane schody, które prowadziłyby bez mała 35 metrów do góry. A to, co widzimy tutaj, to jest tak naprawdę większość lat 60., kiedy ten szyb został zasypywany z uwagi na bezpieczeństwo tego otoczenia zamkowego na zewnątrz.
How many people worked here?
Estimated 1,200 between 1,500. Możesz powiedzieć to?
Przywożonych tutaj z Grozrozem, który był obozem, który dostarczał tutaj siłę roboczą. Jak dane muzeum podają, w Góry Sowiej do Zamku Książ skierowano ponad 13,5 tysiąca ludzi, więźniów. Tutaj na zamku mówimy, no dane są szacunkowe tylko, mówi się, że ponad 1200 osób przyjechało tutaj. Na zamku obóz powstał 4 maja 1944 roku i skierowano do tego na ten pierwszy dzień na uruchomienie obozu ponad 400 więźniów. To, co oglądamy wyświetlane na ekranie, jest to fragment listy transportowej z maja 1944 roku. Ludzi, którzy jechali w Góry Sowie, przewożeni byli również tutaj, czyli wiemy, że ci ludzie na pewno byli tutaj na Zamku Książ w części i również w Górach Sowich. Jeżeli chodzi o śmiertelność, tu są problemy, ponieważ to się zbiega z końcem wojny. I wiemy, jeżeli Grozrozen w tej chwili po swoich ustaleniach podaje, że w Górach Sowich i w Książu zginęło 4,5 tysiąca więźniów, bo takie są dane, tu na Książu możemy mówić o kilkuset ofiarach. Brak szczegółowych danych.
And for good reason, we will question the Großhosen numbers later.
Yay. So what do we call these? Above ground tunnels?
15 meters below level of Castle Yard.
That's very familiar.
From the entrance of one of the plateaus of the side of the castle, we're coming down an S-shaped hallway. I know exactly what I'm looking at. This is a close defensive position. Had a machine gun in here, you have grenade dumps near the floor, you have the S-shape to funnel people in front of the machine gun in order to get into the castle. This I understand.
This one could be an intermediate door.
Probably.
On that. But this makes perfect sense. More secure doors. Why is there a hole in the floor? I mean, this makes perfect sense. Interesting, you have grenade slides on both sides, as well as being locked in here. And there's a door outside. And that plate definitely looks real. That looks like this I understand. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. This is a close defensive position. This is access control, and it's well secured. Why is there a groove in the floor, though?
The signal cables.
You
You will see in another part. This is ventilation system.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I understand, yeah. Huh. Okay. Elevated floor.
Here the cables running through the guardhouse is coming in and making a turn in and up the shaft where the elevator up into the castle is.
So this is the elevator shaft that was filled up?
This is the elevator shaft from Hitler's elevator.
And it stops here. This is the bottom.
Yes, the bottom.
Ma 40 metrów wysokości.
40 meters. And it was completely cemented. The elevator was installed and operational. Demounted in 40s. In 40s it was demounted. Buttons.
Kaseta sterująca pulpit.
Steering pulpit.
I to są właśnie utwory, które oni robili jako wojsko, małe ładunki i poszerzali, pogłębiali tę ścianę.
Tino Bogdan will explain.
Stoimy przed wyjściem z windy osobowej, która wykonana była w boku wieży, pokonywała 40 metrów wysokości, w tym 15 metrów pod murami zamkowymi. Wyjście z windy, miejsce kasety sterującej. Winda na pewno była, bo widzimy jeszcze pozostałości prowadnic, które były zamontowane po bokach tego szybu windowego i przed nami jest takie dziwne miejsce założone siatką i masa otworów wiertniczych. W latach 70., kiedy zamek myślał o odbudowie tego miejsca i przywróceniu z powrotem windy, no windy były trochę szersze. I żeby ten szyb można było dostosować, wojsko dostało zlecenie, żeby takimi mikroładunkami wysadzić ścianę w szybie windowym, żeby go powiększyć, po to, żeby można było zastosować windę. Robili to żołnierze Wojska Polskiego jesień 1975 roku. Ściana została jakby poszerzona, niestety pomysł później upadł, no i szyb windowy pozostał w tym stanie, jaki mamy.
Very secure area. Highest level of security.
And this, okay, this is a look. So that's the elevator floor. More double doors. Oh, I don't know where to go first. Oh, now I know where I am. I am at the giant staircase.
And this is a piece of typical contemporary construction. We've seen exactly the same at the large tunnels at the east wall, where there would be a staircase circling either an elevator or ventilation pipes. This is something we've seen before and typical in the times construction of underground facilities.
This is right under the center of the courtyard, right? This is where the flowers are on top.
Just in front of main entrance. There is a metal steel plate and then concrete, maybe 4 meters thick.
Basically, this staircase has been sealed off by a huge steel plate, upon which is now the flower bed, which is above in the courtyard.
This was a staircase. That was it installed? Was it installed? And it was there.
This is way to big shaft.
Well, These are a nice original touch for the lamps. One more time.
So a little part.
Oh! And I will not hear complaints that the cameras are bouncing. Oh! I see. So this is where it ends.
Go forward.
What the hell was that? Well, that's what that was.
Yeah, net, okay, secure. Shaft is behind of me. Shaft was to the left. We are going to the right.
Alright, so
Bricks. Every
But this is-
every obstacles they have to fulfill the shaft.
And then there's another one here.
All time.
And then there's another one.
What another one?
This way.
This way? This is way directly to the big shaft. But if here in this corridor was a space, they inserted, they throw stones from above. Yes.
Yeah.
Here was a space, so the pile was collapsed to the size.
Yeah.
To this side. So they fillet it, and after a couple years, after collapsing,
They fill it some more.
Yes, they must repair again, like holes in the road.
Yeah.
And this is very problematic because from that yard, this is 50 meters, 8 meters to 8 meters wide. There's a lot of material, a lot of space. So during years, the material was collapsing, still collapsing. Every year collapsing.
Yeah, of course.
They repair. Oh. So they decided to use metal, steel rods, concrete, and now the cover is stable. You asked about that structure in the floor. Of
there would have been an elevated floor all throughout this.
Pipes were covered for signal cables. Entrance. Wood was catching bullets against ricochet, because if they shoot to the concrete wall, a lot of ricochets.
To my knowledge, this is the only wartime photo of the large excavation in the front of the castle.
Stoimy w tej chwili na dziedzińcu honorowym, gdzie mamy trawnik, był wykonany ten potężny wykop schodzący 50 metrów w dół, gdzie miała być zamontowana winda osobowa i klatki schodowe, ale wejście do tego obiektu, do windy, miało być 4 metry pod nami. Zbudowano szyb prowadzący przez zamek, który widzieliśmy w podziemiach, zbudowano klatkę schodową. Klatka schodowa jest tutaj w podcieniach, tu gdzie widzimy w tej chwili wejście do zamku między tymi 3 drzwiami, metodą odkrywkową. Zdjęto posadzkę, wykopano 15 metrów w głąb, wybetonowano, od góry zamknięto płytą betonową. A tu, gdzie my w tej chwili stoimy, miały być pod naszymi stopami urządzenia wyciągowe windy, które zjeżdżały 15 metrów niżej. W parku zbudowano 4 bunkry, które miały bronić dróg dojazdowych do samego zamku. Bunkry wysadzone zostały w roku 1975 na zlecenie zamku przez Wojsko Polskie, kiedy park chciano zagospodarować i chciano usunąć te wszystkie niechciane elementy z okresu II wojny światowej, po prostu przywrócić ten park, jak on wygląda w świetności, czyli te lata XVIII-XIX wieku, a nie pokazywać elementy wojenne. Również bunkry wysadziło Wojsko Polskie. W tej chwili miejsca są całkowicie zasypane, splantowane, nie ma śladów po istnieniu tych bunkrów.
Now, with the memory fresh in mind of the most completed Riese location that we can see today, let's go have a look at a few of the others so you can see. Do remember the tons of cement that was poured in this project.
Now I want you to remember what I told you about how many tons of cement are missing. I am at one of the Riese locations. I see what I would imagine is the outlines for what used to be buildings. We're some 100 meters away from the tunnel entrance. And we are really far away from everything and everywhere. There's not even an official road leading here. Remember, there were several Riese locations. There's the big ones you know. You take the boat tour and you can see large remains and tunnels. And then there's all the others. Are we assuming they're the same size? They're not. Popularity? They're not. They're barely easy to find, barely accessible, and barely visible. I do not know what to make of this. It looks like a square excavation with a tunnel inside, just like we saw at the Riese complex. Over there is what looks like a bunker. And I'm looking around, I'm thinking to myself, this cannot possibly be one of the enormous, highly important Riese locations that Hitler's been briefed on. And yet it is. This is the Sorbonne complex. This is quite clearly, this is the water reservoir. There are still signs of destroyed bunkers, foundations of various machinery that would have been here, cement. I think there might be a cement flooring here, since no trees have grown. This has been excavated. Which is very interesting. A little mound in the center just looks like the roof of a tunnel. And this whole area in itself is inside a little mound with the main bunker sitting over there. There are two entrances, and they drilled the shaft from above some years ago, found a lot of mining equipment. Surprise. And there's nothing here. 170 meters of tunnels underneath. And a bunker. And a cement mixer. Not exactly impressive. A reinforced bunker. Obviously with a tire in it, as is by now mandatory. And a groove on top telling me something could have been up here. This is literally it. There's a room that people have set on fire. This is just a room inside this bunker with a support pillar. Must have been storage of something of some value, possibly. I could imagine this is where they would store explosives. They could have stored explosives in here. There were several doors, ventilation, a few rooms. Not exactly what you assume is something as massive as part of 28,000 people working on a project for Hitler, is it? The one bunker, the Project Riese site, and of the tunnels underneath, 1% is reinforced with cement. So the cement we've been looking for, the poured underground tunnels, is clearly not here. So where is it? At 100 meters down here is the first of 3 entrances. The tunnels are not even connected here. Which is going to make coming down here so much fun. So here would have been a rail link, and the tunnel is leaking water and mosquitoes, but that's hardly news. So what do we got here? I see a narrow gauge rail, but we're back to, are you kidding me? This is a Project Riese tunnel entrance that I will now crawl into just because I finally found the bloody thing. Oh dear, there's a lot of mosquitoes here. And yeah, it's absolutely flooded. And it's closed right, this is it? This is it. This is the entrance. Of course it collapsed a bit. And I was not seeing narrow gauge rail, I was just seeing wood timbers. Right there, there's a wall. This is literally it. The water is beautifully clear, I will say that. Bits of rebar. Bottle. But I mean, are you seriously kidding? There's a brick wall right there, ending the entrance of the tunnel. And given the level of clearance and support and size this project had, and given what General Kammler usually builds, is this not tantamount to comparing it to him building an elaborate outhouse? I wonder what Hitler would have thought. It's almost laughable to think this is a Riese tunnel. There's a couple more entrances, not much different. You can see how the construction was set up to run a narrow gauge railway in here. The support pillars, cross beams are missing. Further in they sealed it off from the top as well. So 700 meters of non-enforced tunnel. Well, 1%. Over there's the tunnel entrance. There's a road that's been filled in here since because the narrow gauge would come out this way, where the labor camp was. So that not exactly having been a success, although it does give you a good idea what many of the Riese tunnels looked like. I'm going to meet up with Alex. He's going to show me one of the lesser known Project Riese tunnels. Maybe it's a little bigger. And what is interesting is we see the same thing everywhere tunnels were excavated. There's like pearls on a string. There are tunnel entrances into a hillside off a road. Here's another tunnel entrance. There's another one down there, another one, 6 more down there, all leading into this hill, and most of them incomplete, most of them collapsed. Any of them reinforced? He says no. He's very shy. This was collapsed or blown up, and then the rails were just, and they're of course removed by the Russians and whoever else.
They took off.
Yeah.
Rails.
And we can't get in because it's still sealed.
Yes, right. And the water coming from the tunnel.
Well, of course.
So let's go to the second.
So here off the road is the second one down the road. Another collapsed tunnel entrance. This was what 20 meters? It was very short, wasn't it?
This was secured by panzer doors.
This had panzer doors?
Yes. Later I show you this panzer doors.
How long were the tunnels?
We don't know.
We don't know.
They tried to open, they removed panzer doors, but it was collapsed in maybe 3-4 meters was collapsed. And they resigned.
So we have all these smaller tunnels, but we've been told they're smaller tunnels, but we don't really know because nobody's been in there.
Probably no tests, no GPR, echograms were made. Probably nobody was looking here.
So even these small insignificant tunnels, we really don't know how much was in there. One of the interesting points about these specific 7 tunnels is they're all heading into the mountain in different directions. They're not looking like they're converging inside or meeting up. They're just pointing in, and for the most of them they haven't been investigated, so I don't really know how deep they are. Which is again just another confusing part of Riese. Oh wow.
Okay.
We can actually get in for a meter. And then it's collapsed there. Do we know how far in the mountain this goes?
But I remember 3 years ago was more deep, was bigger. Every year was smaller.
A little bit more will
Collapsing,
come out,
collapsing.
yeah, of course. Now I know this is not what you expected, and this is what I'm giving you. And this is exactly what we are talking about. There's just not any cement. This is what you get. 28,000 laborers, thousands of tons of cement. And most of the Riese tunnel productions is a hole in the ground.
So, come on.
I'm following you through the rain and hail of mosquitoes here. Oh yay.
Take care of your head. Because stones are sharp.
And unforgiving.
You got shoes like mine?
I mean, this would be fairly easy to open up, to excavate.
One or no?
Close enough. Oh, what's that? That's a frog.
It's a place higher and we can go to the side.
Yeah.
How will be possible?
Alright, you lead the way. You're wearing the high boots.
I will choose one.
You will choose a road.
Which will be better?
If I get wet, I get
This
wet.
not?
I did not come this far to give a damn about being wet.
Oh my gosh. Last year I saw it was in order. It was okay. Now collapsed. All woods on the floor.
Well, as long as it's only the woods that's collapsing. So this is where all the reinforcement, that's a reinforcing beam. Fabulous.
First.
Well, somebody's been here and rearranged the wood. It's probably the kids from yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised. Classic wooden construction, support beams, straightforward.
This is still standing.
Still standing.
What will be next year? Maybe we will find it on the floor.
Yeah, but you know what we're not finding is an ounce of cement. There's no cement in here.
You see, they are constructed with wood and metal clamps. You see?
Yeah.
Iron clamps.
Straightforward mining.
Many years they are still here.
80 years later. And here's,
Iron from Scandinavia. This is a Swedish iron.
here's a little bit of cement.
Maybe.
I mean, isn't it? This looks like...
No, this is real stone. No concrete, no cement.
You sure?
Yes. In this object we have 0% ready. And cemented.
Splendid. This is not exactly the Riese tunnels people expect when they see the boat tours and the cafes and the coffee shops, is it? Does it end there?
This transverse corridor.
interesting. Let's take a look at that on the other way. Here you can see the narrow gauge rail, what was left.
You see,
Yeah.
I try to use light like this, very long
Yep.
on the floor, and then they are better visible.
Oh, you light it up, I see it there. Yeah. And here you see the intersection.
Signs or wood backgrounds for a rail made of wood. Nice transverse corridor.
Now we're cooking. So, well, of course they have rail.
Walls are dirty of the clay.
And you had the wood dowels stuck in.
For stabilization, for mounting electricity cables.
And here,
Yes,
wood
this
dowels,
for
cabling.
air pipes for ventilation.
Yep. You actually see the screw holes in them.
That time when we were boiled this, all pipes of ventilation were suspended to the ceiling.
Somebody built a little shrine. That's nice.
Cross, you see?
Yeah.
Cross made of stones.
Actually, a very nice gesture.
This is a blind corridor.
So this is as far as they got. What are we in, 100 meters, maybe 50?
You see? Nice. Creamy nice because every time it's collapsing.
Yeah.
And you can see
And
shape.
drill holes that they literally, this is where they left it, and just like this.
This hole is exploded because not exploded,
But yeah,
it's small. It's after explosion, after blast.
drill in explosives, explode, pull out the rubble, keep going. It is very nice. Oh, now you have to rebuild it. It is the strangest little monument you find in the strangest parts of the world. Very nice. It's very nice. And sometimes, even in the most unlikely locations, you'll find little reminders that someone was here, remembering those who dug these and gave a damn. And that's nice. There you go. Oh, it looks good. Sometimes we
Secure pockets because of dirt.
flip my phone around. Yeah, I know when it rains, the first couple of weeks it kept raining into my phone, so I couldn't charge
If
it.
you're not, will be horrible scratching like mine. Very simple.
Well, just take a look. See what's here.
Floor was wood.
And for those of you I know who's watching the show who is a little claustrophobic, and I know you guys have written, I don't feel the least amount of unsafe in here. Just want to let you know.
Pins
For the train track, yeah.
for the rail.
The rail there.
Hooks like hooks. Rail was coming from the side. And second pin was mounted on another side.
Actually, one thing left of the mini rail.
Original pins.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course, the rail's a long one.
So we can assess this dimension. 60. It's 60 millimeters.
Narrow gauge. And there was only one, there wasn't two. This was a small tunnel.
And half.
Yeah. I do have a measuring tape with me. But like I was saying, you guys, I don't feel the least bit unsafe in here. It just seems very, very stable and not. And you can actually see the drill hole. There's a hole in that where you had the hook for whatever was hanging of air, power, electricity, light.
For installation necessary to find the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, they would use power drills in here, so there'll be a compressor station outside leading.
All
This is so much lighter. This is almost like chalk.
A dangerous place.
Well,
As well as here. Look at this. Sharp.
yeah, this definitely was a collapse here.
This stone is waiting for somebody. The worst place is on the crossing of corridors.
You mean the one we're standing in? Well, this looks wet. Does it end over here? Is this the ending? Or does that branch off?
This next branch.
That's next branch?
Yes.
Oh.
Three together.
It looks a lot deeper than. I will say so far, I'm very happy with my Russian army boots. I'm pretty sure the guy that sold them, this is one of the old railroad spikes with the metal on here. Now the water got a little dirtier. I'm just pointing that out as a matter of general information. Next cross. And there's the end. So this tunnel down there to the left would have met with the tunnel we were in first. Yeah.
Maybe it's too deep for us.
It does look a bit messy. We tried from the other tunnels, you know, that was wet too, but then again, we seem to have accepted wet as a necessary part of the day. But seriously, when people they think Riese project, this is not what they're thinking. And I keep going back to just saying the very simple term of 28,000 slave and forced laborers and several thousand of technically skilled and miners. And I don't want to hear any complaints about why the camera is swaying. But I'm trying to balance a whole bunch of bricks here. If I just give up doing that, except I'm going to get wet, it's much easier to hold the camera straight. I should just have given up and done that from the beginning. Iron? Is it iron ore? This looks like a lot of metal.
Looks common. It's uranium. Iron dioxide.
Oh. Yeah. Hoo-hoo. Oh yes, we do. Ooh, down there. You know what? My socks are still dry.
Yeah, good shoes.
I know. I mean, like I said, it was a Russian soldier who sold them to me.
It's Russian?
It was a Russian surplus store. Yeah, they're Russian.
Good.
Apparently, that's what he said.
We went there.
Yeah.
Be careful about
Oh, go on. It looks good with a little bit of life in there.
that. So let's go.
You go first. You look good on camera. We gotta find you a new girlfriend.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you. woods. Some of them are very slippery.
Yes, I've noticed.
You can slip.
Now I understand your obsession with rubber boots.
But I forgot bigger one.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's just gonna be a fact. It's just gonna be what it's gonna be. That was burned.
About many years underwater. Use this. The water now. I feel cold, something cold inside.
You do? Yeah, a little bit, but
Cold maybe? Wow.
that's where we were.
You are over there? We can go here.
Stop dripping on me. Water. I'm okay with being wet, but the camera doesn't like
This
it.
place of infiltration. Water is dropping down.
So this is the other entrance, the one we can't get to.
This is way to another entrance. About the entrance number 4.
This must have been blown.
No, it's natural collapse.
You think this is the collapse?
I think so.
All the small pieces?
Yes. What was the reason to collapse this place?
None.
It's open from another side.
But there's very little reason with a lot of things around here.
Look at the stones above your head. Sharp and clean. That
Right.
means that you collapsed fresh.
Oh, that's nice.
Last time it was collapsed. So, let's go. In. But please don't touch stones above your head, okay?
No kidding. Is there an out here?
Don't touch. No.
I don't think I can make that one into the backpack. Is that an exit?
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm ready to hand over your equipment.
Okay.
On the position.
I have to take my bag off. I'm scraping the
On
roof.
Huh? On the side. Please left him.
Alright. So.
No, don't transport it. Wait.
Huh?
Don't take it here.
I thought this was an exit.
But it's dangerous, you see, the stones. How sharp they are. Please be careful.
Okay. Where next? So,
This is our way.
alright.
Forward,
Okay.
more deep into the mountain's heart.
What the hell is that? Metrite.
Currently we are on the top, the big collapse.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
It's not a shaft. From this point, we can observe how big is this collapse.
Oh, hell yeah.
Every rock under our feet was collapsed.
Yeah, we're standing in the cave-in.
So, in case of emergency, they left
The light.
necessary light for us.
That's very, very nice of them. Wow.
Miss Marysia is informed that when we will not back,
This is where we are.
she will organize help for us.
Send food and toilet paper. Wow.
Look at the stones. Most of them are very sharp.
Imagine to be working here. But then again, it took 80 years for it to collapse this much.
Just after war, this was in very good condition.
Of course, yeah.
It was open. Widely open.
So there was never anything in here. There's no cement, there's nothing. They just dug a hole in that.
Yeah. You see? Guillotine.
Yeah.
Now are you starting to see the case I'm making here and the problem we're looking at? Thousands of tons of cement was poured here. Hitler took a personal interest in this project. The best engineers were here. Over 30,000 people worked on this project. And this is what we find. There's nothing here, officially.
Not the nice, neat, clean tunnels you're used to seeing here. Is it now, guys? Is there a cross? Is that wood?
Oh yes, but it's deep. Secured by stones.
I wonder why. It's not very thick.
But it's vertically mounted.
Yeah. I wonder how many people it took to do this, work-wise. I mean, a couple of hundred probably would do it.
But no prisoners. They were not allowed to work with obviously mushroom.
The prisoners wasn't?
Yeah, look at mushroom.
Holy shit.
Underground species of mushroom.
This was very cool. This is a lot different than what people think. It's just fascinating to see how this... I guess there's a fascination with destruction in one way or another. I mean, places that are blown up or destroyed or falling apart, it's still fascinating to see. But when people are talking about how a Riese project was for nuclear research, well, not in here.
Looks like very, very nice nuclear laboratory.
Oh yeah,
See? It's ready.
totally. We could move in tomorrow. But that also means that if this is what half the tunnels look like, they could do this with a couple of hundred prisoners in a couple of months, maybe 6. Means that there's a lot more prisoners available to work on much bigger projects that we don't see. Right?
Prisoners were involved in work which was accessory service or helping.
Support services.
Support, they were support. Mine job on the underground were conducted by laborers which had normal pay and special pay.
And you had Italian miners.
Professionals.
You had a lot of different miners from a lot of different countries here.
Nobody can do it except of professional miners. Oh, together with you, backpack.
Oh yeah, I'm stubborn. You know, there are people that go to Mallorca and Spain and France for their holidays. Theoretically, this is what I do on my holiday.
Yes, right.
What the hell's wrong with me?
To make good movie is very strong job.
History is
Very
important.
heavy job. As you can see. Smile.
Impressive as the tunnels under the castle is, they really are not that elaborate. They're not that big, even if we only saw half of them, especially when we compare them to Zement or Bergkristall. They're not that big. And quite frankly, I find it a little strange that such an elaborate setup has been made just for 4 generator rooms. And there must be something else to it. We've been through the Riese tunnels, shown you the big, the small. Tomorrow we're going to go to the biggest Riese tunnel and meet the gentleman that actually bought it, Mr. Berkowski. He's a great guy. He also owns the Henge site. And he's a great historian who looked for years into the underground, into the forests, looked for documents. And there's something else going on here, and what is really going on is obfuscation. They are concealing what really was here. I don't understand why they would do that since it's post-war. But clearly there are documents out of the German archives that has documented that Project Riese, far and away, was the biggest user of cubic meters of cement. More cement was poured here than in any other project in Germany. And if we also add to that prisoners had come from outside the Groß-Rosen system, now we're looking at 30,000 plus laborers and hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of cement. And when we go through the systems like we did, besides under the castle, where did it all go? Showed you the big tunnels, last year the smaller tunnels, tomorrow the Riese tunnels, the biggest tunnel system. Again, we're looking at an average of 1% of poured cement in the tunnel systems we see. This is about masking. And towards the end of the war, prisoners was brought in specifically to mask things. And I will show you exactly how you can mask an underground floor or hallway in a large tunnel. Because with every resource that was brought to bear on Project Riese, what we're seeing today does not even begin to cover what was expended here. And this is my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy history and military history as much as I love bringing it to you. And if you want to see more of the photos and documents I've used for these episodes, documentation and so on, you can go to lostbattlefields.com. And if you feel like helping me out traveling around the world to some of these far-flung locations like Van Allen Brown's first test stand behind me, or Deepness nuclear reactor down there, or the Maginot Line over there, you can donate on PayPal, protection@serviceint.com. It'll be right here, and it is also on lostbattlefields.com. You absolutely don't have to, but I appreciate any help, and I love all you guys for all the support you've shown me, because history is important. We all know that, and I'm going to bring it to you.